going on, I felt like the need to just, do some type of collective art movement. I think it's really important that whatever tools we have, we can engage in what's going on in this world. So um, I wanted to introduce myself to you all in the sense of the work that I had been doing prior to focusing solely on my art. I come from 10 years of working in higher ed and about 15 years of mentoring young people. So, and always doing art. So I have a lot of experience uh, organizing youth, and I also have well, my experience as an artist and the stuff that I've been doing over in Duranguito as well. So all of that kind of coupled with the way the situation of the world is today, I felt the desire to want to be able to work collectively as an artist group or an artist collective who want to push for social change. Um, I had been I've been looking at a lot of the posts from a lot of younger artists who are starting to express concerns or express some of the same of the things that I've been feeling too within the El Paso art community, and I wanted to be able to give everybody a voice and for everybody to have the ability to um, do what I've been doing in Duranguito, but thinking of how we could all do that collectively. So, and um, I don't know how this is gonna look in 2 days or 3 days or whenever this happens. I wanted this to really be like a community-based event where everybody has a say. People could talk about what they have been experiencing and what they've been feeling, and ultimately for people to have, like I said, um, an artistic outlook on how we can help fight injustice. Well, whether that's for Duranguito, what's going on in Duranguito, for Black lives, or if it's for Black trans lives, that those communities know that will be supported by artists here in El Paso and by educators and by other folks who want to possibly join these types of movements. So I'm actually gonna pick somebody to join me here. Um, Belen, do you want to join me? Alina Belen, because you had some questions, and I want folks to ask me questions and kind of kind of just start a dialogue, because I don't have all the answers obviously, but I just have my experience as an organizer that can help, maybe pull something together. And one of the things is, if you pay attention to my art, that interests me a lot is movement, like physical movement, like dance and performance art. And so, when I was thinking about what kind of expression could I be a part of, that could take in certain things into consideration, like say social distancing, um, whatever I felt comfortable doing. I like coordinating things. I like putting people together and being that middle person sometimes. But I was thinking, for example, imagine if on the corner of where the police station is, the headquarters on Montana and Piedras. Imagine not necessarily staging a disruption to traffic or anything, but if you had you know like a drag queen who held up a sign saying something like uh, you know Trump needs to be impeached or something, and they're just kind of holding the sign when it's time to cross the crosswalk, like that's would be kind of like considered guerrilla type of activism, but in a sense where nobody necessarily would have to get hurt, because I know that there's a lot of folks who are, um, I want to take into consideration everybody's comfort levels of how they feel about activism, because activism isn't necessarily always being in the kind of the front lines of the protests. You know, activism comes in many shapes and forms. You know, like I said, I've been doing forms of activism since 2007. So, you know, and I know that a lot of people didn't necessarily feel safe going to the protests downtown because of the COVID virus, and I just wanted to, you know, offer a different type of protest, you know. So, and if you watch the video that I did for Tacoma Community College, you'll see about what I talk about, resistance art and all that kind of stuff too. So, and I will post that video to hopefully to my Instagram TV as well as my website, and that way you all can get a feeling of what the stuff that I've done, right? And maybe you can spark something. So, does anybody have any questions or anything? I want to answer something. So, okay, Alina, I'm gonna call you in just a second. All right, here we go. All right, let's see. Waiting for it to come in.
Hi,
Hey,
can
what's
you hear
up?
me? Hi, it's so
Yeah,
nice to finally meet you.
yeah,
Like,
virtually.
yeah.
Yes. Cool. So, I specifically, you know, when you've been asking a lot of questions via social media, and I've been trying to answer some of them, or not answer them, but respond to some of the questions that you've been asking, you know. And so some of the stuff that you have put out there has really, well, A, it's been refreshing to see other artists kind of go through some of the same kind of emotions that, you know, some people feel, you know, in the art community here in El Paso. Like who has the monopoly on it, and you know, and how some of that monopolization kind of fits into the narratives that we're seeing in different levels, you know, like nationally, and you know, I'm getting it right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so what are maybe some ideas that you might have regarding, you know, art movements and you know, I'm
Hmm.
thinking like something very carnival, like where people are wearing like these really outrageous masks that like you know, like the Brazilian carnivals, like, you know, where it's just kind of like like a protest, but like a fun protest, right? I don't know how to
Hmm.
put it. Like, I
Yeah.
think that could possibly uh, take a little bit of a shift of how the narrative that we're looking at presently today. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So, do you have any ideas?
I feel like there's just like so many ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think so far, at least for me, what I've been reflecting a lot, I mean, these past months, but specifically these past few weeks, how problematic El Paso's art scene is, and how I see that there's a lot of abuse going on and people don't talk about it. Um, and it just gets me really upset because I see a lot of amazing Black artists who are not getting the opportunities that they deserve. Um,
So, I'm gonna just take some notes while you're saying this, so
yeah,
that,
yeah,
because the goal of all this is to really just have community input. So, like when we put something on the table, like everybody's notes or everybody's comments are collected, you know. So
yeah,
you're saying there's not
absolutely.
enough opportunities for Black artists?
Hmm.
Okay.
Specifically, like where they are centered, where it's not some like I think just listening to some Black artists, they have said like that in El Paso they're token. Um,
Okay.
um, yeah, I don't really like I'm not in a place to speak on their experience, but I just feel like yeah, I feel that there's a lot of work to be done in our art community in the sense of I don't feel included. I feel many folks don't feel included. And I think in our resistance work, art is so important. It's the center of it all. It's also it's a way of knowing, it's a way of healing, it's a way of connecting. Um, and that I think that's to me is really trying to really uproot our art community, like kind of uproot it and shift it and really bring it back to what it's been before. Like when we look back at our ancestors, bring it back. I think that's like my what I'm trying to figure out. So yeah, when you're talking about the carnival, I totally can see that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm also really reflecting on art education.
Mm.
So how important art education is into teaching of anti-racism and teaching many different things, and also just the beauty of the way that artists think and the
Mm.
way that artists can help with solutions and ideas when we're organizing to get change in our communities. So like simple things of like, how are we going to use Instagram in new and innovative ways to get people to sign or to share information, um, because we need each other to think in creative ways with the tools that we that have access to. um, so those are all, I mean, I have lots and lots of things and we can talk for a long time.
For sure.
um, but those are some of the things that I'm really thinking about, is really right now I'm really thinking about anti-racism education, specifically learning about and talking
Put that in my
about
notes.
mhm,
I'm put that in my notes.
anti blackness in El Paso, um, and really having those conversations, and yeah, and also thinking about the body. And you talked about movement, so thinking about that a lot of our healing work and a lot of our anti-racism work, yes, we have conversations, but it also has a lot to do with our body and the way that we've internalized white supremacy, the way that we've internalized anti-blackness. That even before we're having these conversations, it's really recognizing like, okay, right now I feel really anxious, or right now, um, we have to tap back into our bodies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I'm just gonna kind of put out there now, so because I'm gonna transition all these videos to my Instagram TV or whatever it's called, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that I'm normally a very kind of shy person, generally speaking. Like me doing these lives and like kind of disclosing stuff about my personal life is very kind of new to me, right? But I also know that as queer people, like it's important that we just lose some of those inhibitions and be able to kind of put it all on the table, so to speak, because that's really how change starts, is right. And trust me, one of the things that I have seen in El Paso, and I'm just gonna kind of leave it in a general blanket kind of area, right, is um, it's just kind of macho, like the art culture, you know what I mean? So, and I say it because I've experienced it, you know what I mean? And I've experienced it not just from peers my age, but all the way down to some of really young artists, I'm like, what? Like, and oftentimes people may not believe me because they don't want to believe it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, but it's like, trust me when I'm saying this, because I'm talking from my experience of knowing what machismo looks like my entire life. I know what I'm talking about, right? So, but I think that there's a lot of kind of uncomfortable conversations we have to have, and you had mentioned something about the politics of being polite, and how we have to kind of work through that, and even looking at, for example, how white supremacy really works. You know what I mean? I just a few months ago I led an well I co facilitated a workshop where we talked about white supremacy, and I don't know if El Paso's really ready to kind of hear how white supremacy kind of is blanketed over us. You know what I mean? Like it really is there, and there's a lot to be said about that. And from like an academic level, and from like just a very like hands-on, like this is so obvious kind of level.
Yeah.
So cool.
I think it's important. I think it's important that I don't think El Paso will ever be ready. And it's like, we just got to do it. I think it's like, we can't be complacent. So, in saying that and not being polite, I will say that I think, this is my personal opinion of what I've listened to other folks tell me, is I think El Paso's art scene and music scene is misogynistic, racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, like all these things that are highly problematic that we need to talk about, that we need to have conversations about like we are now, and name it and figure out how are we going to shift it. Even if maybe we're not going to fix what's happening, we're going to call it out and we're going to build our own stuff. That's healing. That's actually going to provide hope and joy and love, and really art is the center of resistance. It's the center of just so much. And so I'm not going to be polite about it anymore. Or I think for me, as you said, you were shy. I also I don't like to be out in public. I literally just started trying since COVID happened. I started
Oh,
reaching out more. So,
okay.
and I think that also has to
Good.
do a lot with a lot of people is trauma and the way we respond to trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also go on. That's like a whole nother thing. But
No. Well, do you
I can
have
get
any?
off if you want me to, so somebody else can get
Oh,
on.
sure. And if anybody wants to go next, Aaron, I see you. Marisa, I see you. If anybody wants to kind of give some input, Marisa had a really good. Marisa is the deputy director of the Hope Border Institute. She was the one that I did the anti-white supremacy training with her staff, So and Marisa is also a dancer. Marisa, I'm kind of
Mm.
hinting at you. But I'm just waiting for the thumbs up, or maybe she left the chat. I don't know, but if there's anybody else, Brittany, I see you hanging out there. But so I would ask you, though, Lena, what type of do you want to chime in here in a little bit, Marisa? I'm
Do you
I'm
think she said she's in? I'm in. I
I
think
don't know.
so.
She said I.
I know she's thinking about it,
Yeah.
right?
Let us know,
uh,
Marisa, to say I'm in or I'm not.
but I would say next steps, kind of like, I think we just need to collectively organize as artists, and also folks. And I also want to say, like, we need to reframe the idea of what an artist is, right? I think, especially in El Paso, we've been told that you have to have a certain skill set in order to be an artist. And I think that's totally bullshit. Like, I absolutely, as an art educator, like, mm-mm. Um, so I think we need to organize as artists in El Paso that are really going to talk about all the problematic things that are happening in our art and music scenes. But
Okay, cool. So, um, do you, uh, do you have any type of art that you think would be cool within like a type of art movement? So I've had this kind of idea in the back of my head, like if you could picture it, is I don't have you been to Duranguito where the old Tiradero building is? That's where I put the Adelita little mural that I did there, right? Like that whole wall like needs art, you know what I mean? So like, could you envision something up on that wall, something kind of beautiful that's irresistible, that makes people want to join the resistance?
so I mean, I could think of something. I'm not sure. Like, I'd have to do research and stuff, but I think for me, so I do a lot of conceptual stuff. So I think for me, and like you ask me, like, what would I envision there? I'd be like, I don't know. But then I would also think of me. I think a big thing that we also need to talk about artists, right, is our link to ego, right? And so it's also, okay, well, maybe this opportunity, maybe I need to step back, and maybe I need to see who has been doing the work for a long time and has not been given the opportunity. So it's like that we're using, like, that, not using each other, but that we're in community with each other, and we're not in a scarcity model of like there's only so much opportunity, but instead saying, okay, who can we link up? How do we uplift each other? So to answer your question, I honestly wouldn't know, but I know a lot of folks who deserve the opportunity. I know, and there's a few people that I'm thinking in particular that would really love to join in that work. So it's like continuing to link up and organize together. Um,
All right. Well, like let's do it. Like and
I
I think we
know, I know, I know.
be swift, yeah. Like let's be swift
Absolutely, I
about
agree
it.
with you.
Mm. Yeah,
Like
because
tomorrow, we're gonna start. I'm just kidding.
yeah, because I've learned, like sometimes if you sit on ideas for too long, they don't transpire,
Oh,
and
you're freezing on me.
oh.
You are freezing on me.
Yeah, is it better yet? Is it
You're
better? Is it okay?
freezing. I'm going to.
See, you're freezing. Mobilize and organize, yes. Um, can
Do
you
you
hear
want
me?
me to hop off and get some? Because I want to make sure that I give time. If anybody
Yeah,
wants
yeah,
to
yeah,
hop
yeah.
on,
Like,
I'm
who wants to
totally down
go?
to get off.
Aaron, do you want to
It's
talk?
also freezing.
Aaron, do you want to talk?
All right, I'm hopping off. Thank
Okay.
you so
All
much.
right.
I don't know if
Yes,
you
we'll
can
be
hear
in
me.
touch. All
All
right.
right,
I'll set
bye.
up a follow up. All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Bye. Thank you. All right. So, Aaron, you're gonna go on. If you're in the room here, who's in the room? Who's in the room? Here we go.
You know,
What's up, Buttercup?
not much. Just here. I am winding down. I'm forcing myself to go to sleep at a reasonable time today, and though I have the news on right now, I'm also telling myself to just like not do the thing of getting sucked into like every single details things are breaking and just
Mm,
like let myself have like some rest. I feel like
yeah.
people like us like care a lot right now and that are very empathic, especially artists. I think by nature, um, I'm not too familiar with who was on earlier right now, but I loved everything you said and I think and your vibe and everything. And I think it's absolutely right. I think people um, have this misinterpretation of what an artist is. And I think even, for myself as somebody that very much feels that I was, born an artist and is an artist and in everything I do that like, people when they first hear like, oh, you're an artist or something, they're like, well, what do you paint? Like it's always like associated to something like in particular, paint, people first think of paint. But um
Mhm.
but yeah, dude, I'm trying to like have some rest tonight, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I was
And what?
actually writing to you. I
Oh,
don't know. I like took a melatonin and I'm like starting to feel sleepy. And then you called and I
yeah.
patched in and here we
Well,
are.
well, well. If you like, well, I'll make it quick so that you can just can continue just watching it without having to think too much. But
No, 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 that's
what
cool.
would
I
you
mean, I'm down.
what would you see as like some type of movement, right? Like a peaceful like art type of engagement, like within the community, um, performance, something like that, you know? I don't know, I don't, I can't, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm open to ideas, you know. I want it to be centered around people though, and um, just like leaving a message to the oligarchy in El Paso and to the
Yeah,
into the just the world that El Paso stands behind, you know, all communities, the Black community, you know, the immigrant community, and that I want to see like some type of art movement for that. So what would you maybe think of, consider?
well, the thing is, I think it's happening, and I think, but there's going to be a lot of but.
Ta-da-ta. So Aaron is frozen. I might be frozen. Okay, we're gonna take never go to sleep, sleep never. Who else is here? Let's see. Let's take some more opinions. I'm gonna just pick on somebody. We're gonna get some Cruces folk up in here. People are like, they didn't comb their hair or anything. They're just like, why is he calling me? So, so far we've been talking about some of the work. What's up? You think I was gonna be calling you? Are you in Cruces?
Préstanet.
¿Estás en Cruces? ¿Dónde
Sí,
estás? Sí. ¿Cómo te va?
Bien, bien. Estaba viendo, se me hace que estaba viendo el video antes, o sea, como que de
Okay.
repente aparecía aquí en la pantalla.
Dime, you have experience though with community art projects. Can you explain a little bit? I mean, it would be good to hear to get your perspective.
Yeah.
See,
So what?
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Pues yo soy de Juárez. I'm from
Okay.
Juárez. I crossed the border around like 10 years ago and then went back and forth. And then I traveled the world. I studied all over the place. I learned a lot of languages. Um, and I was always like involved in, I guess I was always interested in like protest arts and movements and activism.
Mhm.
And now I end up being like youth organizing and working with youth and like helping them get motivated to do something, right? The crazy thing is that I believe that we don't have the answer. And so all I can do is support their ideas and hope that the change that they want to see is what we need, and support the need that they want to fulfill, right? And when it's about arts, I think that I don't know, like for me, it's been a wonderful experience to get people together and then create something together and then paint it together in a mural and have it represent something for a community that it's very meaningful. Because I'm not from that community where we paint this wall, right? But the people that we will paint this wall with are from that community, and um, it hits home. Even though I've been from home, I've been far away from home for a long time. It hits home to see someone see home,
Mhm.
and when we're going through things like what's happening right now, and we feel unsafe in our home, and we feel like our neighbors are unsafe, and we feel like everyone around us is unsafe, it's like, well, what the fuck, man? This is my fucking space. Like, you're trying to you took away my space a long time ago. You made me believe I had a space, and then part of like painting murals with communities and claiming identity is taking back that fucking space. It's
Mhm.
like, this is my space. And
Take it back, right?
yes, we're just taking back our space. And
Right.
and like, what the youth have taught me is that if we have no space, we cannot be ourselves. And if we cannot be ourselves, then how are we going to represent? How are we going to stand up for something that we believe in if we don't even know, like, where we're from or what we're doing or like our identity? And like, I've learned so much from this youth. I personally, I can tell you what I studied and what I did and where I'm from, but I don't know anything about my past. I don't know anything about my ancestors. I can tell you as far as my grandparents, but
Mhm.
and I know that that's the story for a lot of us. And maybe some of us are very afraid of doing ancestry.com and having like our DNAs cloned. Um, but but fuck, like we're still trying to figure out who we are, and people trying to stop us from like figuring out who we are when we're like so close to finding space is what's happening now. And you know, I've been hearing a lot about like, well, the riots and the protests and the visual, and like what's the difference between the three and which one's the peaceful one. Well, bro, let me tell you what, the three of them are protesting and the three of them are expressing something, and even though it's with anger and even though it's causing like danger, it's a projection, and it's like a reflection of what's been happening for a long time. And like I was having a conversation with a friend and we were talking about violence, and we're talking about violence against things and violence against people or life. So then we're like, okay, a car, the riots exploded a car.
Mhm.
The police killed a person. It's like, okay, so
Right.
then now we're talking about different things. Like, we're not just talking about the same, like, we're talking about different things. So, art is definitely the only way of being creative about negotiating our relationships with something that we do not agree with.
Mhm. Yeah, it's our voice for sure. Um, what do you think if there was, but it would be cool, you know, like whatever art movement that we can propose to do, it doesn't all have to be together, right? Like we do it in solidarity, like at the same time or something. Like people from Cruces are doing it the exact same time that people here in El Paso are doing it, and maybe even Youth and Anthony are doing it at the exact same time. You know what I mean? Something like that. You know, like it's like and people in Juarez as well. You know what I mean? Like something like that. You know, where collectively people here in the frontera are trying to push a message forward, you know, through like this collective art movement. But there's no like right way to do it, you know. So like what, apart from murals, what kind of art would you like to see maybe be part of that?
Well, shit, music for sure.
For
Like,
sure. Yeah.
I'm
Or the
always like
musicians.
music. I just think that people forget that everything is music and that anything can be music. And even like writing a poem and pretending you have a rhythm.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
like, you know, it's
But,
interesting when I, yeah, go ahead.
oh no, sorry, what?
Oh no, it was interesting because Leslie Gray said textiles, and then I'm going to read some of the comments real quick, and then art that reflects the issues that most cities have, but oops, but El Pasoans refuse to acknowledge. Yes, and so Silver Pick, I'm also interested in talking to you a little bit later on if you want to, but yeah, so
Yeah.
music. So you're saying like, yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's really good music that like protest music that I love. You know, like Mercedes Sosa. Do you know who she is?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
like that. Yeah, like some of her music is just so amazing because it fit like everything that was happening in Argentina. You know, so it's the uh, yeah, like get some of that protest music going.
Well, I think that the thing is that there is a lot of it. Like, I think that um something as like, okay, protest music, we can go back to Janis Joplin era,
Mhm.
but like there is already a lot of like music going on that speaks what is happening about, especially right now. I mean, I think that some rapper dude was even going viral because he did some kind of rap. Um, but I mean, the quarantine even started some kind of like challenges, and but like I think that really, um, I like this what you're doing a lot because I was thinking earlier, I was listening to your conversation earlier and with both of you guys, and the first conversation you had, and I was like, dang, dude, like I am pretty shy. I honestly, like, I haven't even like, no one really knows. Not a lot of people know that I'm a youth coordinator or like a youth organizer. I keep that very low key. I paint murals or like I work with people, but I keep that also like with my friends, and like we make music, but we haven't like stepped into the realm of El Paso because of how difficult it seems to be, like competitive, like what you guys were talking about. And
Mhm.
I just saw it as like, well, El Paso's pretty cool, but like if we're gonna be taking all our instruments over there just to get paid a certain amount of money and then like be treated like shit by like our fellow musicians, then maybe it's not that worth it to go. But when you guys were talking about it, I was like, dang, this is like super cool because it's already creating a bridge, and I think that the bridge is the first way to start. And like, I don't know what the art movement could end up being that everyone here can like create and we can all create together.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure that it can be super fucking dope. And it can be something different, like with all the connections that everyone has here and all the people that everyone here knows, everyone that everyone here can invite to even create or write the same message on a drawing that inspires you, some kind of something, whatever,
Mhm.
and share it. We can already all create like a lot of like a web. We can all be spiders of our own web.
There you go. All right, all right. Well, okay, cool. I like that, and I think like I appreciate you saying that. You know that these types of conversations serve as a bridge. So we just got to start building the bridge. That's basically what it comes down to, right? And building that bridge throughout all of this area, you know, because there's some really amazing artists in Cruces too, you know, and um, throughout this entire region, you know, in Juarez and stuff. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna see if I can get Silver Pick Studios to come up on. So, muchos thank yous. And
You.
all right, so good talking to you, eh? Okay,
Bye.
bye, bye. Okay. All right, we're going on to Silver Pick Studios. Um, where are you? Just give me a quick second. Here we go. Add. And then Kenyan's mom. So,
Hi,
hi, how are you?
I'm okay. But
Cool,
I'm
cool.
good. Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Pam.
Pam. Okay, Jose.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Pam. All right.
Nice to
I
meet
should start
you.
with everybody's name, right? Because I think a lot of people are just now getting connected via Instagram and through social media now, like
Mhm.
considering everything that's going on in the world, you know. So,
Yeah.
hello to everybody.
Yeah, and
Me,
then real quick, I'm gonna say hi to Pignon's mom. She's my former coworker. What's up? So there
okay.
you
All
go.
right, all right. So you have a little bit of different perspective of the art community here in El
Mhm.
Paso as well, right? You're Puerto Rican?
Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican.
Yes. All right, cool. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
So I guess I'm now acknowledging that I have a little bit of white privilege because I'm a lighter skin and then I do come from a better end family. And then I do have horses. I own a horse and I see that side of the, I guess the white privilege part. Like we are just acknowledging that it's surrounded by white privilege. Like I go around, the only Hispanics there are, usually the farmhands. There's barely any, Hispanic trainers, Hispanic riders. At my barn, I'm one of two Hispanics there. And it's like, this feels awkward, you know?
Mm.
And then so I do equine art mostly. And even then, it's like usually, even though women are big into horses, they're not really noticed as equine artists. It's mostly men. And on top of that, again, I'm Hispanic in a white dominated hobby, sport, lifestyle. So I'm trying to figure out ways to like mention that's like there's people of color in what we do, especially the protesters in Houston, they're on horseback, which is awesome. And I mentioned the Puerto Rican protest too, because they even had their protest on horseback with the Paso Fino, which is a Puerto Rican horse. And they rode all the way to the governor's mansion. And they had music too. They had someone in a car with speakers blasting salsa music. Um, so they're usually pretty noisy with music wise. There's always someone playing instruments. And then, they take up, streets, they take up highways, and they're just dancing all the time. Even now, they're doing like, because Puerto Ricans are one third African. So we have a bunch of dances based off African movements. And they're doing that because I think they're protesting the new civil code. They have their own thing going on. But yeah, so that's I guess my side of things. I'm still trying to figure out how to respond properly, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, to what's going on right now, you mean? Like just generally speaking?
Yeah, generally speaking, because I'm also on the part of like I have family members who are high risk for COVID, so I can't just go out willy-nilly. Even
Yeah,
at work, I come like fully
yeah,
protected.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I think
usually
it,
I oh
yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
so like usually when it comes to protests, I like to be out there because it's like if I'm with other people upset, I feel like okay, I'm not the only one who's angry, and then we're making like a show of like, hey, all these people are as angry as I am.
Mm,
But then now it's like okay, but there's also a pandemic, so it's like
yeah,
it's just why did it have to happen now? But I'm
right,
like
right.
I can yeah.
So, um, so I think that's kind of like one of the reasons why I wanted to do this live and to get folks feedback, you know, is to see what are people comfortable with, you know, because people
Hmm.
do want to be out there in the front lines, you know, but like you said, you can't because you have people you have to take into consideration, right?
Hmm.
So, um, what else can you do when that's not a possibility, you know, to be out in the
Hmm.
front line, you know? And I think that art is something that one can do, you know,
Hmm.
you know, show your protest to like just the shitty government that we live in right now.
Yeah,
So,
like, and
you
I've
know,
noticed, yeah, and I've noticed, like, I know, like, a lot of the protests are focusing on, like, oh, well, this person was killed in this city. And it's like, guys, we've had our own, black people and people of color killed in our city, by police, even including handcuffed. And
yeah,
so it's like, you should be saying his name, her name, and it's like, also, I feel like we're still not acknowledging that we have a problem. And
oh, like,
yeah, like I feel like that's why art, like, bring it to the forefront. That's like, no, we're not all kumbaya here. Yes, we're mostly Hispanic.
I'm taking
But yeah. Oh, sorry, that's my cat.
racism exists in El Paso.
Yeah,
That
it does, yeah.
that
Whether
is,
it's like I know from a Puerto Rican standpoint, like the guy who made the threat of the protest was Puerto Rican,
oh, oh,
which is
really?
like, it's just like,
So it's
been
very
there.
complicated, yeah, and it's not a black or white issue. It's very gray, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I'm taking these notes. So
Mm,
you're the third person actually, to say that racism does exist
mm-hmm.
in El Paso. Um, so I thank you so much, Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, just keep just keep pointing out that, the problem is here. Like I've said, like, in the Puerto Rican community, I know Puerto Ricans who don't like Mexicans. Like,
Mhm.
it's and then I'm just like, guys, like, what the heck is your problem? Like, we're all Hispanic, we're all Latino, we all speak Spanish, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
but it just, I don't know, it's like to make people aware. Hold,
Mhm.
I'm coming. Sorry, it's my cat.
Oh, okay. All right.
Um,
So
But
I
yeah, no, just keep making people like aware, like point out that, what's going on in New York, what's going on in LA, what's going on in, Minneapolis has happened here. We just have been blind to it.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So, Pinon's mom does not feel comfortable going on screen, but I want to just maybe talk about some of the stuff that I mean, maybe not through you, but maybe bring up one of the points that you brought up is how artists who try to get city funding, we have to kind of fit into a very, what did you put? Censoring of our art, I guess, non-city sanctioned sterile art. Yeah, so I like the way you put that. Sometimes that does end up happening because everything has to be family friendly. So Beanies, I'm learning how to say all your all's names. Like I'm just being introduced to some of you all right now, so I don't know how to pronounce your screen names. Sorry. Okay, Binai, I assume that's how you say your name. I'll go ahead and get you next. So yes, and we talked about the sterile art. So thank you, Pam. All right, have a
Yeah,
wonderful
thank you for having me on.
for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Binai. Okay, give me a second. We're going to Binai. It says you're unable to join, Biniy, Biniy. Um, I can't connect to you. Would anybody else like to go on? Talk to us about a larger art movement that could possibly happen here in El Paso and in the borderlands, and talk a little bit about how artists can help push messages of progress, messages of solidarity with the Black community. Are there any Black artists here in the group? Can we encourage some of them? So let's see. Let me try it one more time. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Hey,
Hi.
hi.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's like half my face.
Yes.
My name's Brittany, by the way. It's so weird.
Brittany.
Green name, yeah.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of ideas, especially in terms of how you were saying at the moment with the riots and people's desire to like want to be out there, but maybe acknowledging that comfort that people have actually going out there and putting themselves out there given some of the violence that's occurring, but also just given that we're in a pandemic right now. And so I think that a lot of that is really, those are valid concerns. And one idea that I was kind of thinking of was installation pieces. And I think that would be an interesting way to kind of also incorporate people from the Las Cruces area, from the Juarez area, because this is something that can be erected with just a few people and can be done in many different locations if it's kind of like the same concept, you know? And
Yeah, that could be very easily arranged in Duranguito, like for me, like we could just be like, hey, we're gonna do this, and it gets done. Right? So yeah, and the other thing too is we've done a lot of things very low budget, but they last and they're still up. Some of the stuff hasn't lasted so well, but for the bulk of it is really solid. So, and we do it with basically a no budget, like everything you see like on Chihuahua Street off of Paisano, all the art was probably less than $200.
I'm like,
So yeah, so like there's possibilities to um, do installations. That's a good idea, and that's a very socially safe kind of social distance type of,
I think that
suggestion.
it's not only socially like safe, it's also socially accessible, because I think that we were talking about accessibility a lot, and I think that maybe one thing we're not considering is that to some people, like Alina was saying earlier, art isn't accessible to some people. Some people weren't raised with art, some people weren't raised with this kind of performative experience. And I know that we're discussing being loud, and we're discussing like we want our message heard, and we do, but we also want our message listened to. We can't just be loud, 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 loud if we can't capture those voices and make sure that those voices are being like listened to, and like that message is really clear. And so in that way, I think that installation pieces, especially that pop up and like create intrigue, create that conversation, and again, like they were saying previously, tying it into maybe social media, like creating that buzz around it, that creates that conversation.
Mhm. Do you think it would warrant like its own social media account, like this movement, whatever it is?
Yeah, I think it could. But also like the use of hashtags, like we're seeing, like if we can get that
True.
growing, because people are interested. Like I know in LA that's super common, where people just pop up and they do huge sculptures and they're like working on it, and they have their like hashtag in their account, and you're like, what's going on? And you just like look it up, and it has all the movement, the history, the what's going on there. I know I worked at a fine arts camp in Alaska, and we did a simple like piece where we created these booklets that encouraged people to think about like what's in a can, because these kids from Alaska, when they think of what's in a can, they think about like halibut, and they think of salmon, where over here we think what, tuna, like other normal fish.
Right.
So we just at one of their little lunch meals scattered these magazines everywhere, and when they got to lunch they were like, what's this? Like they were all like about it, and we created that conversation. And I think just like that spontaneity really sparks the like, I guess.
Yeah, I like that idea. Um, have you had just kind of based off of the feedback you were giving, have you felt that there was wait, you weren't the one that was saying it though, were you, about the sterilization of the art, like here in like in the city, at the city level?
Mm-mm.
That wasn't you, right? Okay, yes.
Well, it was like the funding. Is that what you're talking about?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. No. I was, yeah, because I think that there are a lot of city funded projects and grants and stuff, but I think that a lot of that is under like they regulate your art, like there's specifications or parameters of the content that you can have, of the message that you can preach, and it's kind of whack because if you're wanting to put a message up, like it should be the message that you want to be heard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they definitely, well, it's just, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right? But it could be considered forms of censorship, right? When certain projects don't get funded just because of the messages it comes that's it's bringing it across, right? That could be, I mean, proverbially seen as censorship. So
Oh, completely. Like it's like, oh, we're saying like not speaking, not putting your input in, not taking a stand. That's a form of censorship. That's a form of like in terms of like what's going on right now, that's a form of like racism. When you're not taking action, you're taking inaction, and it's a step backwards.
yes. So Nico, neurodesigner, that's UPenn has an MSW. Oh, sorry, I did something there. MSW, MFA. I'm happy y'all are talking about art resistance and social justice. So there we go. I'm back there. So yes. So yes. Go ahead.
I was just thinking because another thing that I've seen a lot and that I'm very interested in is the education. Like again, Alina was saying, is that art education and just education in general about anti-racism, anti-racist like movements is super important. And one kind of like, it's not necessarily an installation piece, but it could be with like books and kind of creating one of those lending libraries, like take one, put one, but all of the literature in it could be like anti-racist text, like art text from brown people. I don't know. I just thought.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was interesting when I put the little flyer out today. I had folks who are writers who wrote to me, saying, I'm interested in doing this too. Two of them, as a matter of fact. So um, if we could just get people to collaborate and like, get some really profound messaging in little books, that's awesome. Like, and just stick them like in different little places around town. So yeah, awesome. So anything else you'd like to add to this discussion? I see ojos de toro, de torres de toro. I see Aaron kind of hanging out there. I know he wanted to keep talking, so I'll go ahead and bring him back on, and then we'll talk to Nico for a little bit if we have some time. So thank you. All right. Good night. All right. Brittany. Okay. Let's see. We have. Where's Ojos de Torres? There he is. Woman who is making a documentary now. Talk a little bit about what she's been up to. So I'm going to connect real quick. This should be pretty cool. Let me see. Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good, and you?
Good. Everything's going well. Just, let's see. Everybody say, call out ignorance with love. Yeah. Be you. Yes. I would say that, Aaron, you're right. Call out ignorance with love. Yes. And there's a lot that could be unpacked there about call out culture now, specifically, because I've been seeing a lot of people getting called out here and there, but I've learned to call out the action and not call out the person. That helps. So, all right, cool. So do you want to maybe tell folks what you're up to? And we haven't, we heard a lot from you back in the winter. What's new with you? What's going on?
Hi, so my name is Nikki. And recently me and my team, my friends that I met going to school in Ohio, we started working on a documentary last year about the Duranguito and the neighborhood that the city's trying to destroy to build an arena, which is bullshit, to be frank. So yeah, we've been working on that. My cousin who works for TRLA, Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, told me about this a year ago. I was on winter vacation. I was still in school, and I presented this to my group of friends, and we had been just doing short films together. And they were like, "This is really cool. Like, this is something real, and we could help." So our first spring break, senior year, we came down and we did like our first set of interviews and filming. And so we've been working on this since then. I think that's since 2019. Then in January, they came for the month of, for the entire month, to finish off filming, although we're not quite done. We didn't quite finish, and then now we're in the process of editing. And then I've been in El Paso since August. After I graduated, I moved back. So it's been a process, you know. I wasn't really ever connected to El Paso politics like this. So it's been crazy. So I'm getting into El Paso politics and the El Paso art community, and it's been a really cool process. It's very, very eye-opening, but it's been very, very cool.
Yeah. How is the documentary coming along? Like, is there anything you can share about it right now?
Yeah, so we are in the process of editing right now, which is hard because we all live in different places. So we've been, you know, basically video chatting every week. And
oh, so there's a quick question. Santi Beast Feast, what are you guys talking about? We are talking about a documentary that's being currently created on Duranguito. So I'll go ahead and let Nikki continue. So yeah, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So we're in the editing process right now, and we video chat every week. And basically just how we did it is like we put together the interviews and like we transcribed them all, and then we put them together in an order that made sense in like a Google Doc. And now we're putting that, kind of editing that together, and then Zane, who's editing it, shares it to us, and then we kind of are going through and like, this works, this doesn't work, let's rearrange this. And it's a very long process. I've never edited a documentary, so I don't know how it's supposed to be going, but I'm sure it takes a long time. So we're getting there.
Right.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, an update that I have, but it's going to be a while before it's out, but as soon as we have, you know, something solid to put out there, we're going to put it out there.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. What I saw that you all were doing, the edits look so clean, and it just looks so like profesh. Like,
yeah, we have a very talented team. I can't take credit for that. You know, I've learned a lot from you know, my friends, and it's
Nero designer wants to ask, will there be subtitles?
Yes, of course.
Cool.
Yeah, that's something important that we have been focused on.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Nice. And is there anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
No? All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Anything you would like to maybe see in this art movement that we're trying to create? Any ideas?
Definitely. I definitely loved Brittany's idea. Brittany's one of my friends from high school. I loved her idea about her library, like her open library thing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I want to be a part of this, and any ideas that people have. I am a filmmaker and I can edit, so if I can film anything and put that online, I would love to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm sure we could use like as many filmmakers as we can to get involved in this, you know, like let's get this stuff out there. let's get like the current story of El Paso, how, you know, I have a friend who lives in Washington, and he said, and I've been like, he's been kind of looking for folks who like my suggestions of like who's doing art and all that kind of stuff. You know, he's like, dang, it's like a renaissance in El Paso right now. You know, so like, so I'm happy that so many folks want to contribute to this renaissance. You know, so
Of course,
cool. Yeah. So yes, I'm sure we'll be in touch soon, and hopefully we can continue these types of conversations so that folks can start to learn, like, you know, a little bit about politics and culture here in El Paso. I think it's important. So thank you very much. Right. Have a good one. Okay. Right, bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So who else wants to maybe add their 2 or 3 cents about art here in the borderlands and doing resistance art and doing it collectively as a group? Saludos a mi prima de Juarez. Santi Beast, you want to talk? Yes? All right. I'm going to go ahead and get you on. Santi Beast. Add. There we go. We're just waiting. All right. Art and social justice, yes. Connecting to Santi
Hi.
Beast. Hey, Santi Beast, how's it going?
It's going good. Pretty
Yeah,
good. Just
yeah,
late
yeah,
right now. I
yeah.
just got home from work.
Okay.
Yeah.
What work do you do?
I'm a truck driver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How's it been?
It's actually better than ever, more business than ever before because everything has to be moved and from store, and a lot of food needs to be moved to the shelves, and like Clorox, there's a warehouse here in the United States of Clorox, and Clorox is like producing more than ever, and a lot of companies have now freight with Clorox, so it's good. I mean, some businesses go down, and right now the transportation business is bigger than ever, I guess. So because more people are buying food, a lot more shelves have to be stocked and all that. So
yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool, man. So, are you an artist as well?
Well, I'm not an artist, but I write music. I love to write music.
Oh, okay, nice.
I really don't. I was into photography a lot,
Uh,
and I remember that I still have the antique camera. One of my uh one of my dad's friends gave me, and sorry,
oh no.
and and the fun thing about it is that just taking pictures, taking your time with the pictures, and just looking at all the memories you've had with all those pictures, or the music you write, all that good stuff is like stays forever in the memory, at least, and
Oh yeah, man.
right,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for
yeah.
music it's pretty intense because whatever comes out, I just flow with it, I just let it be, and it's interesting because most of the times I don't want to write. I'm not thinking about writing music, but the thought just comes and I start writing it down all down. So it's it's pretty fun and I enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, what instruments do you play?
I play guitar, piano, saxophone, and a little bit of harmonica, and I forgot one. Um can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you upload your stuff like I don't know if
No,
I
I haven't uploaded any of it.
no okay.
I don't know where to, or I think there's a website called iCloud. No,
Oh,
not iCloud. SoundCloud.
oh,
I
okay,
think
yeah.
that is it. Yeah.
Yeah, SoundCloud's one, yeah.
SoundCloud. Yeah.
So, is it the same as your handle for Instagram, the Santi Beast, your SoundCloud?
Yeah. That's mine.
That's your handle for SoundCloud?
Oh no, no, no. No,
Oh,
I don't have SoundCloud. I
oh,
don't
you
know.
don't
I
have
don't know how to.
SoundCloud. Okay. All right.
No, and
I thought you were
mostly
telling me you had
mostly
SoundCloud.
I write music lyrics. Write
Okay.
lyrics. Yeah.
Well, what we were talking about how art and music and all that kind of stuff goes into social justice movements. Specifically now because of everything that's going on.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
And
do you have any suggestions like on oh, and Nero designer saying you could upload your stuff to Bandcamp too, which is true. So Bandcamp is another website for musicians. Any suggestions about doing like a collective art movement?
um, collective art movement. I would try to. What I suggest is try to write down your ideas, what you're thinking, like what you have as a thought process. Write
Yeah.
it down and analyze it, and
Mm,
and try to like critique yourself. Why I'm thinking like this,
yeah.
or you know, like have some sense of knowledge of why you're thinking like that and the thoughts you have. And then well, if you want to write that into a song, then you can write it into a song. And and um and always, not always, but have the just the like the thought process of, okay, so I think this and this, and then be able to say, well, I think this and this and this because of this and this. So it's always good to have a backup or some support for yourself.
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
I think. I
Therapeutic.
mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Cool, man. Well, if you're following my page, you'll see that I'm gonna keep posting about these types of conversations so that hopefully soon too, like, I don't want to wait too long to do some type of collective movement with a bunch of artists, and a different type of art protest, you know what I mean? So please
yeah.
keep following us and hopefully we could get something going, man.
All right.
So, and all right, cool. Any other thoughts that you want to leave with?
Just stay active. Like I know that maybe it's for me, it's kind of I'm kind of busy, but I also have this kind of fear that I'll get shot, you know? So because I've dealt with police cruelty before, and it's not just like I put on my Instagram story that it's not only in just black people. It's every citizen, every life in the United States that the cops will maltreat you, and they will use force or whatever they want because they can. And that is the thing that haunts me the most, is that not just black people, every citizen, every life in the United States is a threat,
It's threatened.
is yeah, is it's we're all threatened.
Right.
And it's not just black people. Like, you go
Well,
to,
I think right now though, like I think statistically, black people do have to come across.
exactly, black people are more affected. That's true.
Yeah,
That's
so
true. But
I think that's what, why we're fighting this now. Um,
exactly, you know.
so,
And
but I thank you, brother, for coming and give us your thoughts, and please stay tuned. And then if we can get something going, man, you are more than welcome to please come join us and give us some music.
all right, okay,
Sound good, man?
thank you. Yeah,
All right, thank
sounds
you.
good.
All right.
Thanks. Bye
Good
bye.
night, man.
Good night.
Okay. All right, friends. I think that's a wrap for the night. I really enjoyed doing this. It seems like there's a lot of good feedback. So it looks like there are things that people want to talk about. So, Nico, do you want to say anything real quick? I see you. You have like a lot of or anybody. We're good. All right then. So thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll get this art movement going soon. That's the goal. Good night.